The short answer to our title question is that the mountain of God, Mount Horeb, Mount Sinai, and Mount Paran are all names for Mount Sinai and Mount Seir, is important for determining the location of Mount Sinai. The long answer, which is the subject of this article, is that each of these names provide important clues for determining where Mount Sinai is located. The location of Mount Sinai is one of the major mysteries in biblical research. Yohanan HaHaroni has stated, today the problem of identifying the route of the Exodus and Mount Sinai itself is one of extraordinary difficulty, far more than any other problem of Palestinian biblical topography. 1962, 118. Mount Sinai, the site of important biblical events. Mount Sinai occupies an important place in human history, as well as in the history of God's people. Most significantly, it was the place where God appeared in person to Moses and gave him the law. Earlier, at the end of Moses' 40-year exile in Midian, God appeared to him in a burning bush at the base of the mountain of God and called him to return to Egypt to lead the Israelites to freedom in Exodus 3, verses 1 through chapter 4, stopping at verse 17. When the Israelites first arrived at Mount Sinai, Moses struck a rock at Horeb to provide water for the multitude, Exodus 17, verse 6. They then spent 11 months at the holy mountain before breaking camp and moving on to Kadesh Barnea. Shortly after arriving at Mount Sinai, Jethro, Moses' father-in-law, visited Moses and advised him on how to govern the people, Exodus 18. Moses then ascended the mountain and received the law from God, as well as instructions for constructing the tabernacle, Exodus 19 through 31. This was followed by the sin of the golden calf and its aftermath, Exodus 32 through 34. Skilled craftsmen among the Israelites constructed the tabernacle and its furnishings under Moses' supervision, Exodus 35 through 40. The first Passover was celebrated exactly 1 year after leaving Egypt, Numbers 9, verse 1. Before departing, more laws were given, Leviticus 1 through 27, and a census was taken, Numbers 1 through 10. When the Israelites left Mount Sinai, God's presence went with them, and the mountain no longer was a significant religious center. Mount Sinai appeared in recorded biblical history only one more time, nearly 6 centuries after the Israelites were at Mount Sinai. Elijah fled to Horeb, the mountain of God, to escape the wrath of Queen Jezebel, following his encounter with the priests of Baal. At Mount Carmel, 1 Kings 19, verses 1 through 21, all told, some 63 chapters of the Old Testament are devoted to events that took place at Mount Sinai. This amounts to 14% of the 436 historical narrative chapters from Genesis to Esther. After Elijah's visit, Mount Sinai dropped out of biblical history, and its location faded from the remembrance of God's people. Mount Horeb. The first reference to Mount Sinai in the Bible uses the designation Horeb, Exodus 3, verse 1. Of the 17 times this name appears in the Old Testament, mainly in Deuteronomy, only once is it given the designation Mount Horeb, Exodus 33, verse 6. Otherwise, it is simply Horeb. It is apparent from the many times the term is used in reference to events that occurred at Mount Sinai. Exodus 33, verse 6, Deuteronomy 4, verse 10, Deuteronomy 5, verse 2, Deuteronomy 9, verse 8, Deuteronomy 18, verse 16, Deuteronomy 29, verse 1, 1 Kings 8, verse 9. That Horeb is an alternative name for Mount Sinai and not another mountain or area near Mount Sinai. The mountain of God. The mountain of God is the name used for Mount Sinai in the burning bush account, Exodus 3, verse 1. The meeting place of Moses and Aaron, Exodus 4, verse 27. The location where Jethro visited Moses, Exodus 18, verse 5. And Elijah's hiding place, 1 Kings 19, verse 8. The fact that the burning bush theophany occurred at Mount Sinai indicates that it was within grazing distance of Midian, since Moses was pasturing the flock of Jethro when he met God at Horeb, the mountain of God, Exodus 3, verse 1. Midian was located east of the eastern arm of the Red Sea, the modern Gulf of Aqaba or Gulf of Eilat. The reference to the meeting place of Moses and Aaron following Moses' call is very important for locating Mount Sinai. When Moses set out from Midian to return to Egypt, he would have taken the most direct route, the Trans-Sinai Highway, which traversed central Sinai from the northern end of the Gulf of Aqaba Eilat to the northern end of the western arm of the Red Sea, the Gulf of Suez. Aaron, whom God had told to meet Moses in the wilderness, Exodus 4, verse 27, would have taken the same direct route in traveling from Egypt toward Midian. Therefore, their meeting place, the mountain of God, must have been located somewhere along this road. Furthermore, in order to be within grazing distance of Midian, it must have been near the eastern end of the road. Gilgal, Quashim, that's capital Gebel, then capital Khashm, et Tarif. The mountain visited by an ABR team in 2007 is located in precisely this area on the Trans-Sinai Highway CA-22 MI west-northwest of the northern end of the Gulf of Aqaba Eilat, Wood, 2007. Mount Paran. Mount Sinai is twice referred to as Mount Paran, capital P-A-R-A-N, in the Old Testament. In Moses' blessing upon Israel prior to his death, he made a clear connection between Mount Sinai and Mount Paran. The Lord came from Sinai and dawned on them from Seir, capital S-E-I-R. He shone forth from Mount Paran, and he came from the midst of 10,000 holy ones at his right hand. There was flashing lightning for them, Deuteronomy 33, verse 2. All scripture quotations are from the NASB, unless otherwise indicated. In his closing prayer, Habakkuk made a similar connection between Mount Sinai implied and Mount Paran. God comes from Teman, capital T-E-M-A-N, and the Holy One from Mount Paran. His splendor covers the heavens, and the earth is full of his praise. His radiance is like the sunlight. He has rays flashing from his hand, and there is the hiding of his power. 3 verses 3 through 4. The name Paran most often occurs in the Old Testament as wilderness of Paran. Genesis 21:21, Numbers 10 verse 12, Numbers 12 verse 16, Numbers 13 verse 3 and 26. The wilderness of Paran was the area encompassed by the Wadi Paran and its tributaries, extending from approximately the midpoint of the Araba valley between the Dead Sea and the Gulf of Aqaba Elat, southwest to the Trans-Sinai Highway. That the Trans-Sinai Highway went through the wilderness of Paran is evident from 1 Kings 11, verse 18. When Hadad, heir to the throne of Edom, was taken to Egypt for safety during David's reign, his retinue followed the same route Moses took centuries earlier. Starting from Midian, they traveled to Paran, then on to Egypt. The use of Mount Paran as an alternate name for Mount Sinai leads to the conclusion that Mount Sinai should be located in the wilderness of Paran. Gilboa, Quashim, et Tarith is located on the Trans-Sinai Highway on the southern edge of the wilderness of Paran. Mount Seir, S-E-I-R. Mount Seir is mentioned 15 times in the Old Testament and Seir 14 times. The most significant reference for our purposes is Deuteronomy 1, verse 2. It takes 11 days to go from Horeb to Kadesh Barnea by the Mount Seir Road, NIV. There is general agreement among scholars that Kadesh Barnea is located at Ain El Quadrat. That's capital A-I-N-E-L, capital Q-U-D-E-I-R-A-T in northern Sinai. Most likely, the Mount Seir Road was a north-south road leading from Kadesh Barnea to Horeb, Mount Sinai, and then on to Mount Seir. If the route of the Mount Seir Road could be ascertained, the location of Mount Sinai could be fixed at the intersection of the Mount Seir Road with the Trans-Sinai Highway. Although Kadesh Barnea provides a northern location on the road, where was Mount Seir the southern terminus? Several biblical passages indicate that Mount Seir was in the wilderness of Paran in the vicinity of Mount Sinai. Chedorlaomer and the king that were with him came and defeated the Horites in their Mount Seir as far as El Paran, which is by the wilderness. Genesis 14, verses 5 through 6. Thus dwelt Esau in Mount Seir. Genesis 36, verse 8, King James Version. Esau took his wives from the women of Canaan, also Basemath, Ishmael's daughter. Genesis 36, verses 2 and 3. He, Ishmael, lived in the wilderness of Paran. Genesis 21:21. The Lord came from Sinai and dawned on them from Seir. He shone forth from Mount Paran. Deuteronomy 33, verse 2. There is a mountain named Gilboa Shara, 55 miles northwest of Elat, which Horeb believes is the Mount Seir of the Old Testament. The 11 days journey from Horeb by the way of Mount Seir into Kadesh Barnea, Deuteronomy 1, verse 20, with Mount Seir identified as Jabal-e-Sarah, northwest of Elat, also helps to locate Mount Sinai, 1977, then 80. The problem with identifying this mountain as Mount Seir is that it is too far west to be considered part of the wilderness of Paran. But there is another mountain named Gilboa Shara, just 6 miles southwest of Gilboa Quashim et Tarith, which is within the wilderness of Paran. It is feasible, therefore, that the Mount Seir Road went from Kadesh Barnea south past Gilboa Quashim et Tarith to Gilboa Shara. In fact, there is an ancient track that follows that very route. If this reasoning is correct, Gilboa Quashim et Tarith would be at the intersection of the Trans-Sinai Highway and the Mount Seir Road as required by Exodus 4, verse 27, and Deuteronomy 1, verse 2. The acid test. There is a way to test our proposed identification of Gebal, Quashim, et Taraf as Mount Sinai. If it fits the time-space conditions set forth in the wilderness itinerary, preserved in the biblical record, that would add credibility to the theory. The Israelites arrived at Mount Sinai in the 3rd month after the sons of Israel had gone out of the land of Egypt. On that very day, Exodus 19, verse 1, since they left Egypt in the 1st month, Numbers 33, verse 3, it took them 2 months or 60 days to reach Mount Sinai. The travel distance from the starting point at Ramesses, Tel El Dabah, to Gilgal, Quashim, et Taraf is approximately 290 miles. Allowing for Sabbath rest, the Israelites would have traveled 52 of the 60 days of elapsed time. This results in an average rate of travel of 5 to 6 miles per day, a reasonable rate for a large group of people traveling with animals, wood, 2,000. Deuteronomy 1, verse 2 states that it was an 11-day journey from Mount Sinai to Kadesh Barnea. We shall assume in this case that the 11 days was the total number of travel days rather than an elapsed time. The road distance from Gebal, Quashim, et Taraf to Ayin el Quadrat, Kadesh Barnea is about 78 miles. Traveling an average of 7 miles per day, the Israelites could have made the journey in 11 days, as required by Deuteronomy 1, verse 2. Conclusion. The Bible provides a complex matrix of specifications for the location of Mount Sinai. It must be toward the eastern end of the Trans-Sinai Highway and along the Mount Seir Road. In addition, Mount Sinai should be found in the wilderness of Paran, a 60-day journey from Ramesses, and an 11-day journey from Kadesh Barnea. Gilgal, Quashim, et Taraf is the only site thus far proposed for Mount Sinai that meets all of these requirements.